It's quite interesting when you drive up to Dunster. You see these signs saying Dunster, England's best preserved medieval village. And when I first came to Dunster, I was expecting to see a well-preserved medieval village. It's a well-preserved medieval market town. It's a wonderful example of how the Normans came to the country, invaded it, conquered it, and established a thriving commercial new town.
Dig Village has absolutely been fantastic, I think, for the village and in particular the museum. I'm quite new to the village. I've been here about 5 years, and Dig Village was here, I think, a couple of years before. And it's been fabulous because Mick Aston said there was not much known archaeologically speaking about Dunster. So when I came, people didn't know very much. So I was in the same sort of position as everybody else. So I've sort of explored the journey with Dig Village, understanding, what we've got under our feet, how significant this village is. And it turns out to be pretty blooming significant.
Dig Village really grew up from all the work that I did with Mick over 20 years. Mick's projects at Shatwick were really a guide to how you go into a local community and get them to work with you. I was once in a pub with Mick and we were sat there having a drink, and one of the locals passed him and said, "When are you going to dig a hole in my garden?" And the whole village was thrilled about it. 25 years before that, I'd been in a village that was the start of time signs with Mick, and I remember the day we were going through a garden with beautiful black soil, looking at the objects that are in this garden, and there was something about that idea of being in the community, looking closely at a village garden, that has always stuck with me. And so when we got a chance to have the time to do it, we thought, right, we should take those basic Mick principles, which included test pitting. Mick was very positive about test pitting. I was more nervous about it than him, but he believed test pitting was a really critical thing to do. So we involved test pitting in our model, and we learned a lot from what he'd done at Shatwick of how to work with people, but also process the finds.
So it's been amazing digging at Dunster over the past few years. We've excavated about 57 test pits, and it's been absolutely fantastic digging in people's back gardens and finding out about their heritage, about the finds that they've got hidden under their vegetable patches and whatnot. We've found some amazing things that date back from prehistory. So we've got Bronze Age thumbnail scrapers made of flint that have been laying underneath people's vegetable plots for the past 4,000 years or so. We've found Roman pottery, which is hinting at that there might well be signs of Roman occupation in Dunster, which we knew nothing about before.
I was not prepared for the first roof that I came across, and it was a really unusual roof. And I remember seeing it from below and thinking, oh my God, that's an odd one. I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. It was clearly a medieval building, but it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And I didn't realise as the project unfolded how many roofs of that type I was going to see. I've never seen so many early roofs, like true crux. I mean, which means that the timbers are continuous from the ground to the apex. Absolutely beautiful roofs and really interesting carpentry, because so many of these small towns have never been looked at properly. And we've just had this opportunity here in Dunster to climb into everyone's attic through the kindness and the patience of the people here. And it just kind of reset my mental map of medieval architecture in England.
Absolutely delighted to see so many of you here. This project all along has been about a village, or a town in this case, where lots of people have been involved, and it's lovely to see some of them here. But what really mattered is when we arrived here, we had people who looked after us, who welcomed us, because we don't have to come to places. We could have gone to anywhere really, but we started working in Dunster, and people said, "Come and look in our gardens." Biddy was always making cake for us. That was a good sign. And we loved that sort of welcome we had. And what you're beginning to see here is the result of the whole village beginning to work on this kind of project to tell you what's happening. And the village people in the village, particularly Jenny, Biddy, have put together this sort of display, which they've done on their own hard work and effort. You've got archaeology that's exciting, interesting, low carbon miles, and it's on your back doorstep. And the more villages we can get realising the asset you've got just beyond your back doorstep, the better. And that's been a very important part of the project. When I used to come and stay in the hotel, I'd look down, and if it was apple day, Martin would be the person with the shredder doing the apple work and keeping people going. And that's the kind of spirit we need. Sadly, Martin's no longer with us, but Susie, his daughter's here, Susie Pike. And what we want to do is unveil a gallery in Martin's honour. Susie's slightly occupied with looking after the little ones at the moment, so I'm going to ask Dani to risk the job. I said to Jenny, I think this is a mistake, I shouldn't be allowed in the Luttrell late at night with locals. I said to Jenny, if you ever manage to get half of those dolls removed to one side and a museum that tells the story of Dunster's history, this is just the start, it's going to develop, we'll find you a few bob. And she's gone and done it. So I have now the great pleasure of handing over to the chair of the parish council a cheque from Time Team. All these funds are not coming from public money, they're the funds supplied by the people who support Time Team Dig Village project, and it's to help move the museum on. So well done to Jenny and all the team, and I hope you make good use of it.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So this has been one of my...
Can I just say, while you're listening to the esteemed words of my colleague here, if he's not already said this, Mick used to say, if you don't do one of these after archaeology, you are, what's the word?
Messing up the nest.
Up your nest. And there it is, Stewart, Penny and the team did this fantastic job of creating a lovely report on what we've done, and I think that was a fantastic job they did. I'm very pleased to see it. So you can have that one for free.
Oh, great. You're not going to charge me for it then? It's been a wonderful experience working with people who live here and people who come here because as well as being a community of people who live here, actually quite a small community, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of tourists every day. I go outside now. People come, spend a couple of hours, look at the castle, look at the yarn market and go away again. And what we're able to do now, I think, is to help people enjoy the place as a whole, not just see it as a castle or as a market, to see a town populated with people in much the same way it is now. And it's quite a privilege to do that and to be able sometimes just to spend we spent 8 weekends here and leave feeling you've handed something on to the next generation that live in Dunster.